urge our listeners to do their own research and look at both sides of this particular equation. But it's good to see that we're at least, I think, beginning to get beyond the giggle factor when it comes to the mainstream press covering UFO-related stories. And I think regardless of whether it generated more than a news cycle or two's coverage, I think it's important that the mainstream media is, I think to a certain degree, is eliminating some of the little green men jokes.
Well, now they're little gray men, aren't they? But seriously speaking, you mentioned something here, and you created the climate for a debate, like a great debate with Stephen Broadbent, who's been on the Paracast in our early years, and Robert Hastings. Do you think we can get these two together?
That would be a good show, huh?
Well, you're assigned. You can check that out for us. But
okay.
The key is, of course, that UFOs are being taken more and more seriously. Certainly the success of Leslie Kean's book on UFOs. Yes. Because that got to the top 30 of the New York Times bestseller list, just down from all the conservative books on politics. So that's pretty good. Pretty good development.
Very good. Yeah, there may be hope for this field yet, although sometimes I really have problems believing that.
Speaking of hope for any field, especially the paranormal, you told me before we started this week's session that you got wind of a new set of cattle mutilation cases.
Yeah.
Give us a briefing.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, it seems that the Hall County ranching family has been quietly undergoing quite a wave of unusual livestock deaths. Over the past year, they've lost 20 head. I called up the Hall County Sheriff's Department and offered any sort of assistance that I could to help them out in their investigation, and spoke with the chief investigator of the case, Inspector Daniel Korn. And it's a very curious case, Gene. It has some very peculiar elements to it, including the University of Georgia diagnostic lab, I think, was called in to do some forensic testing. They found an unknown poisoning agent that may have been involved in the actual cause of death in one of the cases. And unfortunately, there's not really a budget there to do the battery of tests that would be needed to actually identify what that agent was. But a lot of your standard poisons were, I think, fairly factored out of this. And one of the things that is very peculiar to me is you have, this is right in the middle of Georgia ranching country, and you have cattle ranches all around this one particular ranch, and nobody else is experiencing any sort of unusual livestock deaths except for this one family. And investigators of the case are convinced that some perpetrator with a sharp implement, not a laser or anything, but a sharp, like a scalpel or sharp knife, is excising these soft tissue organs from these animals, and it really caused a bit of a stir. CNN covered it. It's on a lot of the news wires, and I think it's going to be interesting to see if the trail cams and other investigative tools that they're breaking out to help try to get to the bottom of this. It'd be interesting to see what kind of results the investigators get.
Do you think it's a human actor or a paranormal one responsible for this?
Well, we don't have any evidence to suggest that any sort of UFOs have been sighted. Actually, no military helicopters have been sighted. It's a real mystery. And most of these animals have been found right on a creek that runs through the property. In fact, one animal was found immersed into the creek. We have animals that have bled out through their eyes. There's peculiar elements to this, and I'm not really sure what to make of it. Supposedly, there's no poison plants in the environment there, so that would be my first guess, is that these animals are somehow poisoning themselves. But that doesn't seem to be the case, and I think the jury's out, and I will be helping out as best I can officials who are investigating these cases. So we'll see.
You know what? We need basically a forensic anthropologist, like the woman over in the TV show Bones. Don't know if you ever see that on Fox.
I don't watch TV, Gene.
You don't?
No.
You miss all the pop culture.
I know. That's one of the reasons why.
Well, you know what's funny?
I'm a Hulu guy, so.
You're a Hulu guy. All right. Well, that's how it goes. Speaking of that, you still see the shows, You just don't have to pay for the local cable provider or have an antenna up on your TV.
I don't have to listen to all those darn commercials.
Hey, we have darn commercials on the show.
Don't!
That's how we survive.
I fast forward through them, Gene. I fast forward through them.
Don't tell the network that. I won't repeat it. Okay, we've got an interesting tale to tell with tonight's guest. An exclusive story. This is going to be fascinating. Tell us about it.
Well, I met Anthony Sanchez just recently at the Angel Fire Paranormal Conference, and we sat down and spoke at length about this particular scenario. He has a book coming out in December called UFO Highway, and one of the interesting elements in the book is a new whistleblower that has come forward. He's a retired colonel, and he has a very interesting claim. He claims that he was part of a team that worked in the notorious alleged underground base at Dulce on the Hickory Apache Indian Reservation. I, of course, working in the San Luis Valley for many years, which is just about 40 to 60 miles away from Dulce, have always been interested in the subject of underground bases, and in particular in the Dulce myth at this point.
Well, okay, that's the important point here. Up till now, we've regarded Dulce as a myth, one of the ufological myths that has arisen in recent years.
Well, Anthony begs to differ with us based on the testimony of this colonel. He's done an extensive series of interviews. He has checked out his background. He does appear to be who he is. We're going to have fun with Anthony today on this show because there's some very interesting information allegedly coming out of this case. So hang on to your hats and fasten your seatbelts.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to basically get a new slant on the Dulce myths from Anthony Sanchez. A reminder, neighbors, that we have forums where you can comment on the show at forum.paracast.com, forum.paracast.com. The co-host is Chris O'Brien. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in
the Paracast.
As you know, the Paracast is brought to you by Audible.com, the Internet's leading provider of audiobooks. With more than 75,000 downloadable titles across all types of literature and featuring audio versions of many New York Times bestsellers. For listeners of the Paracast, Audible.com is offering a free audiobook to give you a chance to try out their service. One book to consider, for example, is Above Top Secret, the Worldwide UFO Cover-Up by Timothy Good. Timothy Good, as you know, has been a guest on the Paracast. Yet another book worth considering from Audible.com is Lies and Deception, UFOs and the Secret Agenda, from Timothy Good once again, and also from our old friend Nick Pope. As you know, Nick Pope has also been on the Paracast. This is another book that you're definitely going to want to check out. For this book or another free audiobook of your choice, go to audiblepodcast.com/Paracast. That's audiblepodcast.com/Paracast.
Again, the Congressional Budget Office sounds the alarm. This time warns of Greek-style U.S. debt crises. You heard me right. The GAO is drawing a parallel between the U.S. economy, its debt, and the current Greek economic meltdown. With the debt-to-GDP chart climbing into unfamiliar territory, the growing budget deficit will rise to unsupportable levels. Hi, this is Ted Anderson. The Federal Debt and Risk of Financial Crises document the CBO has published is a must-read for every American, covering the risk of continued deficit spending coupled with an aging population and the rising interest rates spell economic disaster. It's imperative that you get a copy of this document and study it for yourself. Call me today at 800-686-2237 and I'll send you a free copy. Again, call 800-686-2237 and ask for your copy of the CBO document. Once again, you need to read this government report. Call 800-686-2237.
In confusing times, would a simple outlook on health and beauty make sense?
If you're tired of taking dry vitamins without noticing any results, then the Bogdana Nutritional Formula is for you. Easy to take and absorb.
The absorption of liquids is 98% in comparison to only 20% for dry vitamins.
For the past 25 years, Bogdana Rejuvenating Nutritional Formula has been proven to get results.
Detox, nourish, and rejuvenate your body with this one-of-a-kind supplement that contains 150 natural and organic nutrients.
And a 1-month supply is less than $1 per day.
Take charge of your health and feel the difference with Bogdana Liquid Vitamins or your money back.
Go to BOGDANA liquidvitamins.com or call 1-800-234-5608.
That's BogdanaLiquidVitamins.com or call 800-234-5608. Give your body what it needs and it will perform miracles in return.
For inner health and outer beauty, feel the difference with Bogdana Liquid Vitamins today.
Less is more. I want you to think of Life Change Tea as, well, a 2008 Ferrari 612. The Ferrari 612 is a two-door, four-passenger luxury car that gives an exploding 540 horsepower through its 6-liter V12. It has a top speed of 199 miles per hour and can accelerate 0 to 60 in about 4 seconds. Life Change Tea will accelerate your life into feeling more energy, losing weight, and cleansing toxins out of your body so you'll live longer. And guess what? You can accelerate your life without a Ferrari 612 sticker price of $318,000. You can buy green tea for less, but unfortunately, it's just another daily driver with no performance. So for just about $1 a day, you can drive the Ferrari of teas. Don't be fooled by size. Check our website out at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Or you can call us at 928-308-0408. Again, that's 928-308-0408. Remember Life Change Tea.
Tired of searching for great talk radio? Search no more.
I'm told that it has everything.
We are the GCN Radio Network.
We want to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com. Get in on all the action at forum.theparacast.com.
The co-host this week is Chris O'Brien. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in the Paracast. And our guest, Anthony Sanchez, author of a forthcoming book called UFO Highway. But we're interested this week focusing primarily on the Dulce interview. Chris, why don't you pick up from here and lead us towards the first round of questions?
Anthony, welcome to the show. First of all, as I mentioned in the preamble, we met at the ASPE Angel Fire Paranormal Conference. And, boy, I'll tell you, I was very, I was quite taken aback by the interesting story that you related to me, and I instantly felt that you would make a great guest on the Paracast, and we welcome you to the show.
Thank you for having me.
What we want to do, I think, is kind of give our listeners a little background on you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you met this enigmatic whistleblower or colonel, and then we'll get into some of the particulars of what the colonel had to say about Dulce.
Okay, as far as my background, I've been researching UFOs for about 20 years, and I've had a lot of experience in the field, going to various crash sites throughout the Southwest, trying to make vacations out of them, but they usually turn into work. And I've never thought about writing before until about maybe 3 years ago, because I had such a massive repository of data that I just needed to finally get some of the theories and ideas that I had out there to the public with respect to the areas that I focus on, which is really alien and human hybridization. I came up with something called transformation hypothesis, which sort of synthesizes data from other experts and then lends me the ability to formulate my own ideas. And I also do a lot of work on HARP and Project Bluebeam, combining the two with respect to various conspiracies. And
before we go on with that, Anthony, would you maybe clarify to our listeners what that's all about?
Yeah, HARP is this massive radio array up in Alaska, which has been connected to various different types of activities that result from the use of this technology. Some people claim that there's the potential for inflicting seismic activity anywhere around the globe. Some people say that it has the ability to inflict severe weather patterns. So there's weather manipulation group. Then there's this other theory which I buy heavily into because of some of the research that I've done, which essentially the HARP technology is. It has the ability to essentially burn the ionosphere and create temporary plasma fields that are controllable for undetermined periods of time, which can then be used as pretty much a screen that you can project live 3D motion imagery upon. Imagine walking out of your house, looking up and seeing the USS Defiant above your house. I have evidence that they can do that. I mean, that's possible. And I've uncovered evidence in some documents that were released with quotes made by the program manager of HAARP, who works out of the AFRL, the Air Force Research Laboratory, and one of the high-ranking senior engineers, a part of the HAARP program. There's some very, very, very interesting comments that they made, and they will be in my book, UFO Highway.
Well, there's one thing here about all this is if we have something that can create images of that nature, does that mean that sometimes UFO sightings and other events are created in that fashion?
Absolutely, and that's one of the theories that I discuss, heavily in the book. Is that many of the UFO sightings that are seen, around the world are, possibly projections that are being facilitated through HAARP technology, and that ties directly into Project Bluebeam. And in the old days, Project Bluebeam was essentially this conspiracy that was about espousing a new age religion upon the global populaces. However, that has now metamorphosized and has become something else entirely because of politics and because of advancements in technology and the changing world. I mean, when you look at the world and how it's evolved, you have new countries, you have new borderlines, you have new enemies, you have new allies. Things change. And so the utilization of HAARP technology moving forward is going to be through potentially Project Bluebeam, which is, again, evolved into something entirely, which is now going to be used to manipulate a specific geopolitical region. For instance, imagine a bunch of people in Palestine walking out of their homes and seeing an image of some Islamic deity or like the Prophet Muhammad telling them something, freaking them out, and then, triggering a massive type of conflict between them and Israel, something we've never even seen before, something beyond what we see now. I mean, those are the types of things they can do. So, and it's not limited to just one area. One of the things that I talk a lot about with Norio Hayakawa is, well, how would something like this be implemented within the confines of the United States? It's possible that, we can be staging some type of a UFO event. Right now, as a matter of fact, I'm writing an editorial, a piece on why we're seeing such heavy practices of disclosure coming out. You have this new show, The Event, on NBC. You have the Vatican, and you have the Vatican, saying that they're going to baptize aliens if we find them.
We should mention, by the way, those of you who haven't seen the TV show, The Event, okay, it's on NBC on Monday evenings, and it's one of those serialized dramas, action dramas with science fiction overtones. And let me give you the spoiler, ladies and gentlemen. The spoiler is that a number of years ago, like 60 some odd years ago, aliens landed or crash landed, and they were captured by the military authorities. They're being kept prisoner. And I guess now there's an effort, as I gathered, for them. They're humanoid creatures with subtle differences from humans in the sense they live much longer, they don't age as fast, that they're trying now, I guess, to rebel. So, that's part of it. And, we'll have to see how it turns out. We'll have to see if the show even lasts, because a lot of these shows never last. Let me ask you a couple of quick questions here. The thing I gather here, this UFO Highway book, is it going to focus primarily on efforts or possibilities of disinformation with regard to UFOs?
Not necessarily. When I wrote the majority of the HAARP Project Bluebeam section, I actually focused on an area that I call transient digital audio phenomena, which is unique discovery. I don't think I made the discovery, but I think I'm the one who's writing about it first. People that live very close to base transceiver systems, which are cell towers. We found this unique scenario where, like, a family will be living in a home within 3 to 5 miles of a base transceiver system, and 2 members of the family will hear something, and they'll, be in different areas of the home, but they'll both walk to, let's say, the garage, and they say, "Did you hear something coming from the garage?" So you have this directed, digital signals that are occurring that certain people are picking up on because they share a very close brainwave frequency.
We'll get into the dangers of cell towers and a lot more in our next section. We have Anthony Sanchez, the book coming up later this year, UFO Highway, and we'll start focusing on what he's learned about Dulce in a short time. The co-host is Chris O'Brien. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in
the Paracast.
Okay, neighbors, here's the problem. Face-to-face business meetings with clients and colleagues are always going to be important. But business travel is a hassle, and it's often a complete waste of money. Well, here's a solution for you. Do more, travel less with GoToMeeting. GoToMeeting is an award-winning online meeting service brought to you by Citrix. With just a click, host sales presentations, training sessions, or product demos right from your own desk. Avoid the hassle of traveling and still exceed your sales goals. Plus, GoToMeeting is just $49 a month for unlimited online meetings. Plus, voice over IP and phone conferencing is included. My listeners can try GoToMeeting free for 45 days. For this special offer, visit gotomeeting.com/podcast. Once again, GoToMeeting free for 45 days. Visit gotomeeting.com/podcast.
Before you purchase any water filters, you should know there's a superior American-made water filtration system available. This water filter's housing is made of high-quality stainless steel, and its filters outperform all others in the industry and are the only ones that exceed EPA standards. It's a gravity-fed water filtration system requiring no electricity or plumbing. It removes chlorine, chemicals, and dangerous biological pathogens, producing quality drinking water for less than 2 cents per gallon. Plus, its filters can be cleaned up to 200 times. What is it? It's the Aqua Rain. Owning an Aqua Rain means you own the best money can buy. Learn more and see other quality emergency preparedness products at myaquarain.com. Use the GCN code and you'll receive the book Do-It-Yourself Emergency Preparedness absolutely free. To order, visit myaquarain.com or call 800-585-5077. That's myaquarain.com or 800-585-5077.
Where have all the military surplus stores gone? Don't worry, you don't need one, because everything you need at Military Surplus is at MaineMilitary.com. That's M-A-I-N-E Military.com, one of the last surviving true military surplus stores in the country. Go online now to MaineMilitary.com and discover a source for hard-to-find surplus items at true surplus prices. Surplus gun cleaning kits as low as $2.99. Complete chemical suits as low as $11.99. See our huge selection of gas masks, filters, and accessories. Finish at M10 gas masks are 3 for $30, and Swiss filters are 3 for $12. Searching for Strike Anywhere matches? MaineMilitary.com has them, plus a whole new product line of survival and first aid kits and lots more. Get free shipping on orders over $50 only at MaineMilitary.com. That's M-A-I-N-E Military.com, or call 877-608-0179, 877-608-0179. MaineMilitary.com, the main name in military supply.
Most people know that drinking pure high alkaline pH water is the most important factor in maintaining high energy and vibrant health. Most experts agree that the water you drink should be at a pH level of 8 or higher. AlkaVision Plasma pH drops combine a unique formula of the most alkaline minerals. Using plasma pH drops is the best way to make your water alkaline to help you get rid of acid and regain your health and energy. Simply put 10 drops in the water you drink to raise the pH to a healthy level. Alkalizing water helps your body rid itself of acidic waste and increases the oxygen content of your body. Disease organisms like bacteria, viruses, and cancer cannot survive in an alkaline high pH environment. Order your bottle of AlkaVision Plasma pH drops now by going directly to alkavision.com. That's ALKA Vision.com. Or call 269-409-1776. 269-409-1776 today.
On air, online, and on demand.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems.
We are the GCN Radio Network.
You're in the Paracast. You never know what's going to happen next.
We have Anthony Sanchez joining us on the Paracast this week. I'm Gene Steinberg. The co-host is Chris O'Brien. And we are talking about his forthcoming book, UFO Highway, and you're getting an exclusive look at some of the things that he's learned and put together for this book, including the revelations about Dulce. But right now, we're talking about cell towers. So if you're near a cell tower, it's affecting your brain waves, right?
That's right.
Okay.
So we found a scenario whereby families who live within a close proximity of base transceiver systems, which are cell towers, whereby we found, families who live close to base transceiver systems, these cell towers, they're getting this directed digital signals, maybe in the direction of their home, and certain people within the family are picking up on this because they share a very close brainwave frequency. Throughout my research, and I'm not a specialist on the brain, but I am a researcher, and one of the things I found was that like fingerprints, the human brainwave, each human has their own frequency that they operate on, but it does fall within a range, so you can have a very, very close pattern to somebody else, a frequency pattern within that range that you'll both pick up on. So it's kind of like tuning into an AM station, not quite getting it, but you're almost there, but you can hear it, you can make it out. So that's
is this harmful at all? I really hate to interrupt, but is this harmful?
I don't think that there is any significant evidence proving that it's harmful, because we have radio waves going through our body, at millions of times a second all throughout the day, and essentially this is just a manipulation of these types of radio waves. And I do actually document in the book, the various ranges, the different types of frequencies and radio waves and microwave waves that are used with the various technologies as part of these base transceiver systems, which are incidentally in every single major metropolitan area within the United States, and now outside, extending into the rural areas. I mean, you pretty much, unless you're, up at the, what's the poor analogy? I was going to say, unless you're up at the top of the plateau of Archuleta Mesa, but no, they even got towers up there now. So,
well, Anthony, let me just kind of break in here for a minute. That's a pretty interesting claim, and putting on my skeptic hat here for a moment. Why haven't we heard any reports from people that have had this type of strange kind of effect happen to them? This is the first that I've heard of it. There's hundreds of cell towers around the country. Why haven't we heard anything about this?
Because this is closely affiliated with something that most people don't want to talk about, and that is schizophrenia. When you start talking about, you're hearing voices in your head, you start sending off signals to people, and they essentially don't want to touch the subject. So it's a very, very taboo thing to talk about. And I, through my research, have found that this has absolutely nothing to do with schizophrenia. There's no relation whatsoever other than the coincidence that, you're hearing things in your head. Schizophrenia is derived from something else completely different, and it has nothing to do with the types of signals that are being facilitated and sent out through these base transceiver systems.
Have there been any studies that look at the adverse effect of cell tower transmissions on the human brain? Do you know of any studies that have been done?
There are actual studies out there that I do list in the book with regards to various academic institutions who've talked about the potentials of harm of these the signals being sent out from the cell towers. But there's not. I think this has a lot to do with the fact that you have a heavy investment from the private sector in the placement of these close to homes. I mean, there are people who are getting paid $10,000 a month to have one of these things erected in the backyard of their home because they're alongside a freeway. And people don't want to argue with receiving $10,000 a month, and these major corporate conglomerates who make up the cell phone industry and wireless industries, they do everything within their power to make sure that no negative statements about the technology make it out, to the public.
Well, you also know, Anthony, that people, for example, have their new iPhones or whatever. They demand proper or good quality telephone and data service, and you get into a lot of cities, they have lousy cell tower network installations, and of course the wireless carriers are doing anything possibly desperately trying to get those towers erected. And of course, in some towns, of course, it can be done easily. I understand in Texas you can do one in 3 weeks. In San Francisco, it's more like 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, there's a lot of red tape that's easily, sliced through when it comes with regards to, your typical bureaucratic type of holdups that would normally take place. They just don't happen when you're talking about the cell phone industry. These things get erected everywhere and as quickly as possible.
As I said, except for San Francisco.
Except for San Francisco, right?
No, yeah, maybe they know something we don't.
What is the connection between the this particular cell tower scenario in HARP and the actual GWEN towers, the Ground Warning Emergency Network Tower System? Is there a similar type of concern in relation to the GWEN towers, which replace?
I think that irrespective of whether it's the GWEN towers or the base transceiver systems, they're both potentially usable by the powers that be, to facilitate that type of a scenario, Project Bluebeam scenario.
So we're talking about the mass manipulation of the populace, basically, with certain frequencies that are known to generate and elicit fairly predictable responses in humans, right?
That's right, because at certain frequencies you can trigger emotional responses and even behavioral responses. So you can pick out a certain group, people, piss them off, and watch what happens.
What happens if they broadcast a plea to the populace to vote for Sarah Palin in 2012? I think we'll all be in trouble.
And we're all in trouble.
You see, ladies and gentlemen, as much as we try, we can't avoid politics. And we're talking about Alaska, as a matter of fact.
Well, that's where Galcona is, so that's where HARP is. So I just figured I'd throw that one in there.
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, but she can see Russia from her window.
Well, maybe it's because of the brain waves.
Or lack of them.
Well, you know what? They might have a cell tower right there. But again, as I said, let's not get into politics insofar as this is involved, though. But okay, as a point of reference here, if you're mentioning this in a UFO book, aren't you conveying the possibility there that somehow this sort of technology is used in connection with UFO sightings, UFO cases, even insofar as faking them?
Yeah, I think that they can definitely use these to fake like a massive UFO sighting. What if they want to incite some type of an event? What if they want to trigger the populace to react adversely and rush into these FEMA camps or something? How are they going to do that? Well, if you have a fleet of UFOs over your home and the media, the controlled media is sending all these messages through radio and television that some major event is happening and everybody rush to your local FEMA camp. There's going to be National Guard posted outside, soldiers posted outside to direct you to the right place. I mean, that could be a scenario. That's just one scenario that we could be looking at. Yeah.
All right, we'll have to explore that as we progress in this show. But also I want to get to Dulce very soon because obviously that's our headline subject. We have Anthony Sanchez. He's a longtime UFO investigator. His forthcoming book is called UFO Highway. We'll tell you more about the book in further sections of the show. Of course, you want to discuss this, neighbors, on our forums at forum.paracast.com. That's forum.paracast.com. It takes just a couple of minutes to sign up, and then you're ready to get in on the action. Our co-host is Chris O'Brien. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in
the Paracast.
Hey neighbors, ever thought about creating a website? With HostGator, you can create your own website with your very own .com domain name. HostGator has a free site builder and thousands of design templates to create your website today. Whether you want to create a blog, a photo gallery, a family page, or a website for your business, HostGator has the right plan for you, starting at less than $5 a month for ultra-reliable website hosting with 99.9% uptime and true 24/7 live support available by phone, chat, or email and based right here in the U.S. Don't be left without a website. It's more affordable and easier than you think. Sign up at technightowl.com/gator, that's Gator, to get the lowest possible price. at HostGator. That's technightowl.com/gator to get a special deal on all their web hosting services.
What is a wind generator?
How can the wind produce power for a small cabin?
How can wind energy be stored and used during an emergency?
Can I assemble my own wind generator?
For answers to questions about wind power, visit windbluepower.com. Did you know the wind could provide your family with emergency power? It can with a wind generator from windbluepower.com. Learn how our amazing LightBreeze wind generator kits start charging a 12-volt battery and just 6 mile per hour wind. Or see the new Cyclone X2 dual kit featuring 2 wind generators on just 1 tower. And learn why schools and universities across the country utilize our products to teach about wind power and alternative energy at windbluepower.com. All kits qualify for a 30% IRS tax credit for residential energy efficient property. Enter coupon code RADIO for a 5% discount at windbluepower.com. That's windbluepower.com or call 800-976-0026. That's 800-976-0026.
Still worrying? From GMO to organic food in jeopardy, divided by economic turmoil, there is still an answer. With just a little knowledge easily acquired, you will literally see food everywhere. Author Linda Runyon has these skills from having lived this way of life and created the tools so you could too. Wild food is economical, nutritious, freely available, abundant, and free for the taking. It is a skill that takes little time to learn, but stays with you for life. And now for a limited time, it's all on sale. It's called the Buy Old website sale. Can you guess what's coming? Absolutely everything's on sale across the board, including our already discounted packages. And you know, the holidays are coming up fast. We don't know if we're going to have another sale this year. This was the only one in 2010 so far. We've been lucky to keep our prices the same since 2008, but who knows what the future will bring. So go to ofthefield.com now or call toll-free 1-888-51-EAT-FREE. That's ofthefield.com or call 1-888-51-EAT-FREE and cross food off your to-do list.
Most Americans believe famine and hunger will never happen. But what if? Day 1, mayhem breaks out at grocery stores. Day 3, families are on edge. Day 5, the neighbors come knocking. Day 10, small bands of thieves begin stealing at gunpoint. Day 15, desperation, but the government can't help because there's no food left. Introducing the Grab-and-Go Emergency Food Supply from Solutions from Science. 84 delicious, nutritious food servings, including breakfast, lunch, and dinner entrees. Enough to feed 4 adults for a week. Every meal 100% vegetarian for longer shelf life. Claim your Grab-and-Go Emergency Food Supply today at foodshortagesolutions.com. That's foodshortagesolutions.com. Or call 877-327-0365. 877-327-0365. Grab-and-Go Emergency Food Supply. Better a year too soon than one day too late.
How do you spell hard-hitting talk radio? G-C-N. The Genesis Communications Radio Network.
You're in the Paracast. You never know what's going to happen next.
Chris O'Brien's the co-host. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in the Paracast. We have Anthony Sanchez joining us this week, and he has a new book coming out called UFO Highway. We'll talk about the book as we progress, but right now he's talking about technology that can be used to cause people to think they see a UFO. Does the book primarily focus on this sort of thing, or do you intermingle this with actual cases?
I actually have some documented cases of the transient digital audio phenomena, but not so much where people are actually seeing the UFO, no.
All right, let's go to the pièce de résistance here, Dulce. Now, those of you who are very seriously inclined in UFOs think that's disinformation, a hoax, whatever. Before you tell us about your encounter with this whistleblower, what is the conventional wisdom about what that's used for, Dulce?
You know, I have to tell you that initially, well, before I answer that question, I have to preface this because this is really important. When I began writing this book about 3 years ago, this book had nothing to do with Dulce. I never planned on writing about Dulce. In fact, I never believed any of the Dulce stories. I've been researching UFOs for 20 years. I've been following John Lear and Norio Hayakawa since 1990. I've heard about the Dulce stories. I've heard about Phil Schneider. I've heard about Paul Benowitz. I've heard about Thomas E. Castello. This was something that just held really no interest for me. Now, most people know this. I'm a software engineer, and I worked in a high-level engineering capacity for a major semiconductor company here in Northern California. While there, I met somebody who was working in the technical capacity, who I later found out was working under an assumed identity and had been AWOL from a federal contract where they had been working on a satellite defense system. They had some type of conscientious objection, decided to go AWOL. Anyhow, they contacted me because they knew of my UFO blog and gave me a bunch of information. And this is the person that I ended up meeting the colonel through. And only because of the believability of the testimony and the vetting that I performed on the colonel did I decide to write about Dulce. Now, I didn't realize how strong of a subject this was. Nobody even knows that I wrote about human origins or that I study HAARP and Project Bluebeam, the two main areas that I've been working on for like the past, 2 decades. This Dulce thing has completely overtaken my book, UFO Highway. And I'm happy because it's giving me a lot of exposure, but I'm a little bit dismayed because people are not going to pay attention potentially to my transformation hypothesis and my connection, my HAARP Project Bluebeam connection. So the Dulce business came about because of this meeting with this colonel. So many interesting things were presented on the table immediately after meeting the guy that I had to take a serious look at it, and that's why I called in Norio Hayakawa. One, I knew he was a well-known expert on the Dulce subject. Two, I knew he had a skeptical perspective of about 99% of the information that was out there on Dulce, and that's what I needed to keep me grounded with regards to this information, because some of it is just really out there.
Let's back up a second, Anthony. You said that you vetted this whistleblower. How did you vet him? How did you check him out to see if he was what he claimed to be?
Two things. The first thing I did was, with the full cooperation of the colonel, is we filed a standard Form 180 to the military custodian of records. That would be your National Personnel Record Center for the military personnel. What you get in return is a DD-214. Now, I'm very familiar with this practice because I own a company in California. I have a multiple award schedule with the state of California. It's called the CMAS. I'm allowed to hire active duty reservists and retired and veterans. If they're qualified and they meet the qualifications of the job the job description that I'm bidding on, which comes through what we call a request for proposal, an RFP, I get points because I'm hiring a veteran or I'm hiring an active duty reservist. And almost every single RFP that I bid on, if there's a requirement for additional personnel like in networking or programming or anything of that sort, I go out of my way to try to find these people. So I'm familiar with filing the standard Form 180. In this instance, I had the colonel actually file, but I filed with me being a witness. Everything was filled out. I saw a Social Security number. I saw his full name. I saw his service number. I saw everything. Then I physically mailed that, and then we received it back to my P.O. box, and then we opened it together, and I was able to scan the document immediately from the packet. And I know it's real. It's real, and I'm going to have this in the book. I'm going to make it available at ufohighway.com, and I want everyone that's out there to go ahead and scrutinize it because it is the real deal. This is not a fake document. I'm not going to prison for forging a federal document. This is a real document, and it's there for anyone who would like to scrutinize it.
Does that mean then that you're going to reveal his real name?
No, it's been redacted, so you won't know his Social Security number, you won't know his real name, but everything else is available.
Okay.
And this is the reason why the DD-214 was the most important aspect to this story. He told me, on my DD-214, there's going to be a clue. You need to find it, and you need to research it, and that will prove to you that I was where I said I was. So what I did was I did exactly that, and I found a line entry under Section 18 of the DD-214, which was the remarks section, that immediately stood out to me because it just didn't make any sense. It had I'm trying to bring it up right now to look at it. Yes, it had a line that read Rio Arriba CO, DSD -3. And I didn't understand what that was, and I knew from my research that Rio Arriba County is where Dulce is. Now, the full line is 14N4, staff, and then in parentheses, Rio Arriba CO, DSD-3. I only knew what DSD-3 meant through him because he told me, but I researched it, and the only thing that I could find was from the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency. They had a DSD-3 designation, but it came years after the colonel had already retired. For the DIA, it was a General Military Intelligence Support Division. But my research told me that this thing came out years after he had already retired. The colonel told me the DSD-3 essentially stood for Dulce Security Division 3, and 3 being the main, the 3 primary branches who operate there at Dulce, which are the Air Force, the Army, and the Navy. 14N4 actually came back as an intelligence an intelligence code, a personnel code. Sorry, I'm at a loss for words right now. But I called the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So, like I said, under Section 18 of the remarks section, I found this 14N4 staff Rio Arriba County DSD-3, and that was the proof of the existence for me that something from the military was there in Dulce. Now, I called the National Personnel Records Center in St. Louis, Missouri. I have to make an admission here. I accidentally said New Orleans when I was on the Jerry Pippen show. That's because my son is a New Orleans Saints fan, and when I think St. Louis and the Saints, I just mix them up for whatever reason. Anyhow.
Okay. Well, anyway, those who listen to the other show are now being corrected.
That's right. So I contacted the military personnel records custodian, and I specifically asked him to tell me, what does Rio Arriba CO, DSD-3 mean? And the response was that they did not know what it meant at all, that there was no code or definition referring to those terms at all that they knew of. So I then called the National Archives and Records Administration in College Park, Maryland. I asked them the same question. Now, this is the call that had me wondering. At first, the custodian I spoke to said that Rio Arriba CO DSD-3 was a classified designation, and they could not tell me anything about it. Then, upon subsequent calls back, as if I were experiencing deja vu, I was told that they didn't know what the term meant, just like they had told me in St. Louis, Missouri, at the National Personnel Records Center, incidentally, which is where I had filed the standard Form 180 for the DD-214. But, not to be discouraged in all this, I called the township of Dulce, New Mexico. Specifically, I called the Department of the Interior Bureau of Indian Affairs, the southwestern region for the Hickory Agency. And I asked them, is there any type of military presence there in the town of Dulce, New Mexico, or in Rio Arriba County?
I'll tell you what, Anthony, we'll have to break here, but we'll pursue this in our next section. I'm also quite sure that you listeners are going to have a lot to say on our forums at forum.paracast.com. That's forum.paracast.com. And if you're not a member, why not? All you have to do is sign up at the forum. Go ahead and give yourself a member name, answer the acknowledgement email, and then you're ready to participate. And I bet you listeners are going to have lots to say about this episode. We have Anthony Sanchez. His forthcoming book is UFO Highway. We're exploring Dulce in New Mexico. What's it all about? The co-host is Chris O'Brien. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in
the Paracast.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. If you own an Apple iPhone and love to listen to your favorite programs on GCN, I've got good news for you. I'm proud to announce that GCN has a brand new iPhone app available for our dedicated listeners at GCNlive.com. Listen to your favorite hard-hitting GCN programs live or on demand right on your iPhone. And the best part? The GCN iPhone app can be yours absolutely free. Download the iPhone app today by clicking on the banner at GCNlive.com. Again, that's GCNlive.com.
We, the
people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit, then carting to a private bank, having it lent back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Ted Anderson, I'm placing a free silver dollar in a book that explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Anthony Sanchez continuing his discussion about discovering this colonel, this whistleblower about Dulce, New Mexico, and what's going on there. The co-host is Chris O'Brien. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in the Paracast. Okay, Anthony, let's continue with the information you unearthed.
Absolutely. So, not to be discouraged after calling the military personnel records custodian in both St. Louis, Missouri, and then the National Archives and Record Administration in College Park, Maryland, whereas I was now being told that they don't know what that stuff means, what those terms mean. I called up the township of Dulce, and I spoke with an individual from the Department of Interior Bureau of Indian Affairs, the Southwestern Region Hickory Agency. And I asked them, is there any military presence there in the town of Dulce or even in the entire county of Arriba? And their answer was an emphatic no. I asked them if there was a recruiting office, because I said, okay, fine. Maybe he was just a recruiter and he's making up this story because he knew of all of the hoopla around Dulce, and maybe he was there at a recruiting office. And they said there are no recruiting offices there. In fact, they said there hasn't been a major military presence in Dulce since the U.S. cavalry last passed through there. So, not to be completely thrown off, and I had to be absolutely sure about this, I called the Bureau of Indian Affairs Freedom of Information Act coordinator, Miss Cheryl Vigil. That's who I spoke to, and of course I was simply told I needed to file. But now this is what really got me. This really piqued my interest. But she told me, that expecting anything regarding the military presence would be almost impossible. And disappointingly, I asked her to tell me why, and she wouldn't say why. So the DD-214 is from the federal government. It's hard to contest in its validity. To me, the colonel is telling the truth. I have to go by the fact and the irony that it was our own U.S. federal government that proved to me who this guy is and what he says, he did and where he did it. So there's some unknown, heavily classified military presence right there in Dulce, New Mexico, but no one's talking about it. And I'm going to make the DD-214 available to everybody to see. And, it is redacted in some places, his name and his Social Security number, but all the major stuff is there. And I've already shown this to people like Dennis Balthaser, Norio Hayakawa, John Greenwald Jr., there's people that have seen this already, and these are trained eyes. These are people that have sniffed out fake DD-214s in the past, and they know damn well this is the real thing. So that's what makes me happy about all of this. The other thing is I actually had the colonel submit to a polygraph examination, 2 of them independently on one day. I only had a small amount of time with this guy, but I essentially architected a set of questions, and he knew that he was being asked these questions under the premise that they were entirely about Dulce and his military career, and he passed them with flying colors. So that's why I put this in the book. I mean,
are you going to make those results available as well?
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, possibly. People are going to ask, and so I'll probably do that. The one thing that I am doing, though, Chris, is my interview with the colonel was on audio. I had 3 hours of audio. We actually met for 6 hours, but it resulted in about 3 hours of audio of his testimony. I am going to make that available. The only condition was that I don't know how to do it. I got to contact somebody who can help me disguise his voice. So and it's off a little digi recorder. So if they can figure that out, I'll make sure that happens.
Maybe we'll assign Chris or myself for doing it, because there are ways to just change the frequency of the voice, make it deeper, make it higher. We don't want it to sound like helium, I remember one time one of the shock jocks, this happens quite often in a lot of cities, but I remember Howard Stern doing it, and he probably was ahead of everybody else. They would inhale helium on the air, And everybody would speak appropriately. Okay, so you have taken the colonel's background information. You've confirmed it, that he is real.
Yeah.
So we're pretty sure that Dulce is real, too?
Well, my gut feeling tells me that this guy's telling the truth, and I believe now that there is something there at Dulce. But more so because of the research I did when people didn't want to talk about it. So that kind of sent the signal to me, I had a skeptical nature about this whole thing, and when people don't want to talk about something that supposedly doesn't even exist, that sends out signals. And people didn't want to talk about what could or could not be at Dulce. And I was just asking, upfront questions. What does Rio Arriba CO, DSD-3 mean? And I get, that's classified. And then later on I get, we don't know what it means. So you tell me.
I've got a quick question. How did the colonel actually get your name, and why did he? What was his reason for contacting you and selecting you as a person to divulge what we're going to be talking about here?
That's right. Yeah. So this goes back to when I was working at the semiconductor company, and I met this individual who, after they left the company a year later, they ended up contacted me back, and the shared interest that we had while the person was working there was UFOs, conspiracies, and my blog. I had a blog at the time, which was all about the work that I did on HARP and Project Bluebeam, and UFO news and stuff like that. So they called me back, and this person who originally had an English accent calls me back a year later after they're gone from the company, and we start talking, and in the middle of the conversation, they drop their English accent.
Sounds like an actor. Like we have a lot of British actors who speak American, like Hugh Laurie on House, and we have a lot of American actors and actresses who do great British accents.
Yeah, this guy was the real deal, man. He had it down. And my I hate to say this on the air because I don't want to get people mad at me for bringing them up, but my mother-in-law is English, so I know English accents. I know an English accent. And anyhow, he drops the English accents, and lo and behold, he drops this bomb on me, and he says, this is my, that wasn't my real identity. I was working under assumed identity. I'm part of this intelligence channel that's part of which is these group of people that are underground, AWOL, and in hiding from the federal government or whatever. He said I was on this satellite defense system and working for a federal contractor over by Moffett Field in the Bay Area, and he was a conscientious objector or whatever, and he went AWOL from the project, and he's in hiding, and he's in big trouble, apparently. So he's part of this group, and this group has a connection to some higher-level group called COM-12. And I don't know much about COM-12 other than what, I was able to learn through Norio Hayakawa and some various resources that I found on the Internet. But it's some type of a group that is working in the backgrounds, fighting against other malevolent organizations within the shadow government or whatever that have infiltrated our regular government. I don't know. But this person knows the colonel through their intelligence channel, and the colonel was interested in talking with me because of something that I had written in one of my blogs with regards to alien-human hybridization. I just had this theory. I just had a theory, and it was there for anyone to read, and apparently he had read it, was interested in talking with me, and that was the catalyst to him wanting to tell me everything.
Why don't you tell our listeners, and we only have about a minute left with this section before we go to the next section on the show, tell our listeners briefly what was in this blog that might have attracted someone's attention.
I think it was the fact that I had done a lot of work on uncovering evidence of modern humans having been genetically engineered at some point in our past. Not unlike the evidence that Lloyd Pye and several other academics have discovered.
I'll go along with the academics discovering something. Lloyd Pye is not an academic, as far as I know.
No, I'm not calling him.
Right, and also his particular skull, or whatever it is, we have explored that subject ad infinitum on the Paracast and several of our episodes. And we don't find much value in that story. Now, maybe he's got more evidence now than he did then.
No.
So as you might imagine, in light of the shows we've run on that subject, we have some very serious questions about it. We'll go into that in a moment. We have Anthony Sanchez. The forthcoming book is UFO Highway. I'm Gene Steinberg. Chris O'Brien's the co-host. You're in
the Paracast.
Is there a secret UFO agenda? Do strange creatures from the darkest corners of the mind roam the earth? Is there evidence for mind control, time travel, or devious government conspiracies? Find out the inside scoop on the latest conspiracies, paranormal activity, and Fortean phenomena when you subscribe to Tim Beckley's Conspiracy Journal. It's jam-packed with stories, special book and DVD promotions, and the best news, it's absolutely free, sent right to your mailbox. Plus, a bonus free email newsletter sent out every Friday. Simply send an email with your name and address to Mr. UFO at webtv.net. That's Mr. UFO at webtv.net. Find out what they don't want you to know.
Are you wondering about your retirement portfolio? Are you confident that the financial advisor is experienced enough to combat climbing interest rates, taxes, and inflation? Stop guessing and go to the expert, Robert Chapman of the International Forecaster. When you subscribe to the International Forecaster, you get Robert Chapman's 45 years of experience and concise investment recommendations. Who needs sugar-coated excuses when you can get the cold hard facts and proven investment leads you can't get anywhere else? For a free introductory copy to Robert Chapman's International Forecaster, subscribe now at theinternationalforecaster.com or call 877-479-8178. Experience the difference. When you subscribe, you can email Robert Chapman directly to obtain investment advice tailored just for you. Don't wait another minute. Subscribe today at theinternationalforecaster.com or call 877-479-8178. That's 877-479-8178.
Are you fed up with government of, by, and for the banksters and gangsters? Are you ready for a patriotic newspaper that pulls no punches, that tells it the way it is about the forces that have taken over and are destroying the United States from within? The Nationalist Times has been informing and educating Americans every month since 1985. The Nationalist Times features outstanding writers and columnists who promote a common sense, intelligent, and passionate alternative to the reigning cultural Marxist party line. If you believe it's far past time to get America back on track, you need to be reading America's best political publication. Find out why the Nationalist Times has many thousands of loyal readers. Subscribe to the Nationalist Times for the special introductory rate of just $29 for 1 year. Subscribe today by sending $29 to the Nationalist Times, 10161 Park Run Drive, Suite 150, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89145. That's $29 for 1 year to the Nationalist Times, 10161 Park Run Drive, Suite 150, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89145.
There are many types of storable foods, but how about a superfood that contains every nutrient that the human body needs for survival? 50% protein, 300 milligrams of potassium per ounce, and calcium and magnesium for your heart and bones, with many more nutrients found in this incredible food source that the government does not want you to have. This product is available in powder, seeds, and oil, and is shipped free to your door in the U.S. This product is illegal to grow in the U.S., but is legal to import. Don't waste time thinking about storing food. Plan ahead and prepare for yourself and your family now, and be in control of your destiny. You can save and invest your money, but in the end, food will be your greatest asset. Remember what the Word of God says in Ezekiel 7:19. Call 908-691-2608 and see what the powder, seeds, and oil can do for you. Remember, food will be your greatest asset. Call 908-691-2608. This product does not contain THC. Call 908-691-2608 today.
Tired of searching for great talk radio? Search no more.
I just want to hear more of it.
We are the GCN Radio Network. Genesis.
Hi, this is Nick Pope. You're listening to the Paracast.
We have Anthony Sanchez. We're talking about Dulce and about the possibilities that, is it real? We'll have to see. Chris O'Brien's the co-host. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in the Paracast. So before we broke, I was throwing cold water on Lloyd Pye. Let's take him out of the picture. Lloyd Pye doesn't exist. There he goes. He vanishes away. The trickster sends him away into the Phantom Zone, along with General Zod in the Phantom Zone. Okay.
So I actually have evidence of that, to help support this hypothesis that establishes the foundation for proof that humans were transformed over the last 200,000 years at an artificially accelerated pace directly from genetic manipulation by somebody. I mean, we didn't know how to do this 200,000 years ago. Now, I mentioned Lloyd Pye's name because he's already touched on this subject. Lloyd Pye doesn't have a degree in research geneticists, genetics and whatever. But so I don't really want to harp on Lloyd for that. I mean, he just brought it up. And he did bring up some valid points, but he goes off onto a tangent, which I don't even touch. I take a very, very structured academic approach to this, and I cite a lot of people from credible universities, so from around the world. So all that I do is I examine evidence that shows us how early hominids transformed into modern Homo sapien over the last 200,000 years rapidly at an artificially accelerated pace. And I even give the scientific proof showing how our genome was subjected to heavy genetic engineering. And I covered that heavily. Science incorrectly teaches us that we share a 98.5 to 99% DNA similarity. Well, I found the work by a very, very well-known research geneticist who proves that there's less than a 70% similarity between us and other hominids, specifically our closest cousin, the common chimpanzee.
I'm not sure about that. You might want to check that percentage out because I think. Chris, you're going to want to read my book then because I have some very, very shocking stuff that I share here, and there's some really, really good stuff in there. And it forces us to rethink our lineal origins, and that's all that I was doing. And my blog, talks about how in 2005, a well-known research geneticist published, this paper on this whole subject, and I really don't want to get into that because we're talking about Dulce, but there was some stuff within that, within the confines of that topic that piqued the interest of the Colonel because I touch on alien-human hybridization, which is something that he claims happens based on the writings that were found in the Dulce caverns. What they found were... Well, hold on. Let's set it up a little bit. Let's give our listeners an idea of who the Colonel was, what the particular detachment he was involved with, give a little background on actually what happened in the 40s, like you explained to me, in terms of the initial discovery, kind of wind it back a little bit in the timeline and take it from there.
Okay, so the Colonel actually worked as part of this larger unit. It was a medical unit, but he worked on a really, really small classified medical detachment out of McClellan Air Force Base, which is in North Highlands, California, by Sacramento, California. And what he did was he responded to these Type X events. If there was something that was like some type of a classified exercise taking place, and there was like an accident or an injury, or maybe even resulting in a death, and it was some type of like a traumatic event or whatever, but it was part of something classified, or it dealt with something they didn't understand, like a UFO, or some type of unknown aerial phenomena. This is what his group responded to.
So they responded to medical emergencies, in other words, that had to do with something classified.
Yes, they immediately were flown on site to these locations as soon as they possibly could be. I asked him to give me a specific example of one of these, and this is available for everybody to read right now at UFOhighway.com. If you click on the Dulce interview link there, that whole first snippet talks about this Type X event that occurred near Fort Irwin. And I did my research, and I found that there was, in fact, something that had occurred there by Fort Irwin around the time that he mentioned involving a C-130E Hercules and there were deaths. And but I couldn't confirm that this was the event that he's talking about, but I did find that there had been something. So again, it's just more evidence that's telling me that the guy's telling the truth. So what he did was a behavioral and psychological analysis. If he had to lend a hand with triage or whatever, they would, because they were trained to do this. But his job was to see, is this person fit for duty, to return to duty? And he said he had the power to execute a medical discharge immediately if they felt that there was some type of compromise, and in fact, to whatever the classified event was. If somebody went crazy because of what they seen, or they couldn't handle what it was they were encountering, he had that type of authority. And so in 1979, he had received a set of orders to report to this place called, to a facility in Dulce, New Mexico. And he had never heard of Dulce, New Mexico. In fact, none of the people he had worked with had ever heard of Dulce, New Mexico. So, one, that was perplexing. Two, this was the first time he had ever received a set of orders that had come in with a stamp from the Department of Energy. See, these Type X events that he worked on were limited to this Air Force/CIA periphery, and they didn't work outside of that. And I guess the CIA was involved because of the nature of some of the events and the classification levels or whatever. But this was the first time he said he had ever seen anything from the Department of Energy. And he talks about how, they made it so that this was a very, very small, specialized unit that was being sent. He was already part of a classified group. But this group was, he was reporting to a brigadier general over at Edwards Air Force Base. He didn't even know who it was. And there was another major. He was a major at the time. He was reporting with another major who he'd only worked with briefly. And these guys were all selected for a specific reason, and they figured it out. They all had the same personality type. Nothing freaked these guys out, and that's why they were chosen. So they were heading into something, and that they had to be prepared for on the way there. They were given briefing documents which detailed the background of the facility that they were going to, and he initially thought that he was reading briefing documents that were talking about American Indians, and later, on the way there, he realized, oh my God, this is about a species, some type of sentient, intelligent species. Had nothing to do with the American Indians like he had believed, and started talking about inhabitants of this subterranean, complex that they were going to be reporting to.
I'll tell you what, we'll get into more of that in a moment with Anthony Sanchez. Forthcoming book is UFO Highway, and we're trying to assess what might have happened over at Dulce, New Mexico. The co-host is Chris O'Brien. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in
the Paracast.
Ray Perkins, a reclusive veteran burned out from the Gulf War, lives tortured by relentless, perplexing nightmares. Nightmares of a horrific battle in deep space and of a mysterious woman suffering in agony for her devastated world. A woman not yet born, calling across centuries to him. Then, a coincidence leads him to his destiny, his chance to alter the universe. Attack of the Rockoids. The former fiction editor for Star Wars and Indiana Jones, Robert Simpson, writes, "The soul of the novel Attack of the Rockoids lies in its heart and passion for building a convincing tale of a love that spans the galaxy. A thrilling story. Attack of the Rockoids is available now. Read a sample chapter and get a special discount off of the cover price at our website, rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com. Attack of the Rockoids, a novel in the grand science fiction tradition."
If you're a regular listener of this station, then disaster survival is vitally important to you and your family. Long-term food storage, water filtration, emergency food preparation, and quality survival products are not just talk topics, but a way of life. We strongly believe in being prepared for any emergency. We are foodandwaterstore.com, owned and operated by people who are into emergency preparedness. And because we are preppers like you, we own and use the products we offer. You'll find quality name brand proven products like Global Sun Ovens, Wonder Mill Flour Mills, Mountain House Foods, Seychelles and Berkey water filters, and many more, plus videos and articles at foodandwaterstore.com. 90% of our customers are return customers because of our low prices and excellent customer service. We still believe the customer is always right. Discover what your family needs to weather any storm at foodandwaterstore.com or call 1-877-773-7123. Foodandwaterstore.com, helping you prepare for the storms of life.
We all know that Berkey Water Purification Systems are the most trusted name in water filtration. As an authorized Berkey dealer for over 5 years and serving thousands of satisfied customers, the Berkey Guy offers amazing specials for Berkey Water Filtration Systems. The Berkey Light Systems include a set of self-sterilizing and recleanable black purification elements that purify water by removing chlorine, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, and parasites to non-detectable levels and remove harmful chemicals such as herbicides and pesticides. Order the Berkey Light System today, complete with 2 black Berkey elements for only $209, and the Berkey Guy will include 3 sport Berkey water bottles and ship everything to you free of charge. That's right, 3 sport Berkey water bottles and free shipping. An $87 value, yours free. Call the Berkey Guy at 1-877-886-3653. That's 1-877-886-3653. Or order online at goberkey.com. That's goberkey.com today.
Normal blood pressure, naturally. How would that make you feel?
I'm Don from New Mexico. January of 2000, I had a heart attack. Then my real health began going downhill, and I had high blood pressure, high blood sugar, poor vision, and I really wasn't sleeping well. I was a mess, pretty much.
Don reports dramatic improvements with Heart and Body Extract.
I started taking Heart and Body Extract, and from within a few days, I started sleeping a lot better. My blood pressure normalized, my blood sugar normalized, and my sleep really did improve.
Experience these benefits and more when your body gets what it needs with the assistance of Heart and Body Extract. Order at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305. That's hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305.
And folks, I did not expect this at all. By the 7th, 8th, and 9th day, I saw dramatic improvements from taking Heart and Body Extract.
Details at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305 for Heart and Body Extract.
10 years. A decade of talk. Great talk radio is here on the Genesis Communications Network.
We want to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And if you want to catch up on past episodes, we have hundreds of shows for you to download direct from theparacast.com. That's theparacast.com. Or check us out on iTunes.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I should tell you that I do not tell people like Chris O'Brien or Nicholas Redfern how to do the signature, the Paracast. They make it up themselves. I take no responsibility because if it sounds like one big mess, I didn't do it. Our co-host, of course, Chris O'Brien. We have Anthony Sanchez joining us this week. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in the Paracast, and now the rest of the story. We continue to explore what might have gone on at Dulce, New Mexico.
That's right. So the colonel was en route from Edwards Air Force Base to Dulce. And while he was being flown there, he was going to these briefing documents, which essentially had like this compact version of this history of the people or the inhabitants that lived there. You know, again, he thought they were American Indians, and then he did, you know, it wasn't until he made eye contact with the other major, and they both looked at each other and essentially realized what they were reading. There were several copies of the briefing documents, and that's an important part of the story that, you know, is mentioned later on, because the colonel actually was able to retain his set. There was a lieutenant commander from the Navy that they met up with there at Dulce, and when he turned in his copy 3 sets had been returned back, the brigadier generals, the majors, and the lieutenant commanders, Navy officers. So nobody thought, they thought that they had received all 3 briefing documents from their contingent back, and I guess no one ever thought to ask, where a 4th set was. Anyhow, that's how he has all this knowledge, not to mention the fact, I really hate to do this because this really sucks, because this is part of the book that was supposed to be a shocker, but the colonel ended up working for DSD-3, which is the intelligence agency that operates the Dulce facility. And he had access to the DSD-3 personnel and historical repositories, these database systems, and there's a whole bunch more stuff that I can go into with regards to what he had access to, and it's all there in the book, including this system which was developed by the NSA. It's part of an offshoot of the signal intelligence, which is called ECHO, and then I'll mention that in the book, and that's really important too, because apparently many underground facilities use a system called ECHO, and I detail it in the book. But back to the briefing documents, they arrive at Dulce, and essentially they arrive within, I think, 24 to 48 hours after some major engagement had taken place there between the inhabitants and the DSD-3 forces. And when they get there, a demilitarized zone has been enacted. I mean, a real DMZ set up right here within our own borders. And that's how serious it triggered a set of protocols enacting the DMZ. And they get there, and there's a whole bunch of stuff I can go into. But let's just say he arrives and he finds a whole other world that he was not prepared for. Even though the Air Force thought he would be, prepared for it because he had the right personality type, not even the Brigadier General was prepared for what they had come into contact with. So,
well, why don't you give us some background on the actual history going back into the 40s? I found this part of the story when we talked really fascinating. Why don't you describe to the listeners exactly the initial discovery and why the team that discovered this underground complex was actually poking around looking for a facility location? Why don't you kind of dial it back to the 40s real quick?
Okay, so we have to go back a little bit further, further than 1940, to talk about what had transpired there in the Four Corners region. As you know, we had been searching for a home for our atomic development, which was being architected by the Uranium Committee, and which had been triggered by the Einstein-Szilard letter that helped us establish essentially the Manhattan Project. We had pilots actually flying over the entire Four Corners region, probably extending all the way out to San Luis Valley. We know that they were up in Nevada and probably parts of Arizona even. But there was a lot of interest in New Mexico because of the terrain there, especially with the closeness to the White Sands and then leading up to the montane, mountainous desert regions of northern New Mexico, like in Dulce and stuff. Anyhow, they had found this plateau, this Archuleta Mesa, this very, very interesting piece of land, and they had sent this group that they had hand-selected from Muroc Army Airfield. They were called the Muroc Expedition, and these were a set of guys. They had surveyors, they had sharpshooters, and the colonel in his testimony had said that he goes, "This is going to sound old-fashioned by your standards." He goes, "But you have to remember that." Back in those days, they had, this was like a specialized unit. This was like a special forces squad or whatever. They had specialists in all these different areas. And they even had, the colonel says that they had cavers. And he says, we call them spelunkers today, but back in the 40s, they called them cavers, cave experts. People who were, adept at climbing up and down, cavernous type, walls or whatever. So anyhow, this Muroc expedition found this massive cavern that was right there along the side. Now, I don't know which side, but one of the sides of the Archuleta Mesa, where we would see fragmentary columnar basalt, the rock on the side making up the. Apparently, there was a cavern, and it's been covered up since it's covered up, and it's not there anymore. We can't see it. But back then, people used to walk into this cavern all the time. I mean, it was, if you've ever been to northern New Mexico and northern Arizona, you see these gigantic, massive caverns. And, well, there was one right there, and it's gone now because it's been cleverly disguised. But anyhow, these soldiers in 1940 had discovered this cavern, and inside of it was a 7-level subterranean facility the size of a small city. And they discovered this by chance. And it was nestled smack dab in the center of the Archuleta Mesa, up against one of the walls, and it led right into the heart of the mesa. And again, the discovery came about when they began scouting areas of New Mexico for potential sites to house our atomic development. But what was interesting is what they found inside. When they first walked inside the cavern, and again, the book goes into a really great detail about this, and I'm just quickly paraphrasing. They found evidence of a battle that had taken place between Apache warriors, and initially they thought possibly outlaws or cavalry or other Apache warriors. But the further they got in, they found small, diminutive type remains with enlarged heads and huge eye sockets. And their clothing was unlike nothing that the Apaches were wearing. And they were able to determine when this fighting had most likely occurred based on the fact that they found Colt revolvers, Winchester repeater rifles, ammunition of the time, spent and unspent ammunition. And again, they even found a bunch of weaponry of the Native American indigenous type weapons. Some blades with like cloth or leather type, banding around the handles and whatever they used. I mean, they were able to use that type of evidence to determine that the fighting had occurred initially between 1840 and 1870, and by the end they assumed through the supposition based on what they were finding that it was indeed closer to the 1870 mark. They found this evidence of a battle, and they also found equipment. They found, now remember, this is 1940, so there were no laptops, there were no digital recorders. All of this is being recorded by journals, handwritten. There were several people within the unit that had been designated to handwrite all this stuff.
We'll pick up on that in our next segment with Anthony Sanchez. Hey there, would you like to join the Paracast team? Well, we are looking for an experienced sales and marketing person, someone who has handled the online world and knows about social networks. If you have experience in broadcasting, that's one huge plus. If you meet the bill, if you're the candidate, please send your message to sales@theparacast.com. That's sales@theparacast.com. The co-host is Chris O'Brien. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in
the Paracast.
Are you ready to order the official Paracast t-shirt? You asked, we answered. We're now taking orders for the official Paracast t-shirt. It comes in white, 100% cotton. The front of it features the same logo that we have on our community forums. On the back it says, separating signal from noise. To order the official Paracast t-shirt, here's all you have to do. Visit our new online store at store.theparacast.com. One more time, that's store.theparacast.com. You can use a major credit card to place your order for the official Paracast t-shirt. Hey neighbors, we have one more thing to talk about, and that's more merchandise at the official Paracast store. We have hats, we have jackets, we even have a flip video camcorder customized with the Paracast logo at the official Paracast store. It's all now available at the official Paracast store, store.theparacast.com.
It's the end of summer blowout sale at herbalhealer.com. Now take advantage of Herbal Healer Academy's incredible savings on colloidal silver. 500 parts per million, pharmaceutical grade. All sizes from 2 ounces to a gallon on sale. It's simply the best colloidal silver available. And CoQ10 100 milligrams with Hawthorne, an exceptional supplement for heart and arterial health, is only $19. Plus, get the #1 arthritis supplement, glucosamine chondroitin, 60 caps for only $12. Where? herbalhealer.com. Super Femplex and Super Maleplex, both great formulas for reproductive tonification, are on sale now. 90 tabs, only $15. Need a safe and mild colon detoxifier? Herbal Healer Academy's Colon Enhancer large 250 capsule bottle is now only $18. There's so much more at herbalhealer.com, but not much time. The end of summer blowout sale ends October 13th. New customers get a free catalog with your first order. Log on and hit the summer specials now at herbalhealer.com.
As gardeners, we can all relate.
What do you do with all of the excess food that you grow?
Freezing or canning may have been the process you've used, but the good folks at Excalibur Dehydrator have a healthy alternative to preserve the fruits of your labor. The Excalibur Dehydrator will help you preserve your fruits and vegetables quickly and easily, so you don't have to worry about premature spoiling. You can also use your Excalibur Dehydrator year-round to make delicious jerky. And the best part? The foods you dehydrate are free from excess additives, salt, and preservatives, and that's something we can all do without. To learn more and to order your very own Excalibur Dehydrator, visit drying123.com and see how the Excalibur Dehydrator can help you preserve your favorite foods.
Mention coupon code GCN and receive a free book on how to preserve your foods.
Again, that's drying123.com, drying123.com, or call 1-800-875-4254. That's 1-800-875-4254 today.
The food storage industry leader has done it again. Introducing FDG Clubs and Survival Bucks from the Freeze Dry Guy. For over 39 years, the Freeze Dry Guy has served various government agencies and the private sector with the finest in storable foods and emergency rations. If you've wanted to build emergency food supplies but couldn't afford it, now you can. Go to freezedryguy.com, click on products, and look for the Freeze Dry Guy Clubs to pay as you go. Now you can build food storage without going into debt. Choose from a payment range of $95 to $450 per month. Our clubs work with everyone's budget. Plus, when you join Freeze Dry Guy Clubs, you'll get additional rewards. For example, this month, get 10% back in Survival Bucks on all purchases in the Freeze Dry Guy product line, plus free shipping within the lower 48 states on any order amount. Hurry, go to freezedryguy.com or call 866-404-3663. That's freezedryguy.com or call 866-404-3663. The Freeze Dry Guy, the best you can buy.
Tired of searching for great talk radio?
There's a wide range of stuff on here.
We are the GCN Radio Network.
Genesis. You're in the Paracast. You never know what's going to happen next.
Anthony Sanchez is talking about some fascinating discovery here that we want to explore a little bit further. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in the Paracast. Chris O'Brien's the co-host. Anthony, I had to interrupt you for the station break. Let's pick up on this.
Got it. So in the reports that had been prepared by the soldiers who were told to record what they had found, they found that this uninhabited upper level, where they were initially, had what appeared to be ancient artifacts interspersed among modern-looking but unfamiliar machines. They wrote that on some walls they were covered with what. Now remember, this is 1940. They said it was covered with what looked like massive radar screens. There also appeared to be individual personnel stations fitted with which could be cryptography machines, or what appeared to be electric typewriters. I mean, these guys didn't have a clue as to what they were looking at. And remember, all the terminology that we're getting to these reports is based on what they knew, and what they understood at the time. So one soldier had even wrote, "Everything we're finding is highly sophisticated in design, way beyond our latest military electronic equipment. It looks to be German, possibly." So this is what they were finding. The commanding officer wrote that in each of the rooms there appeared to be devices, small devices similar to electronic television sets, maybe German in appearance, and some of them were even immense in size, flat, covering almost every wall that they saw wherever there was equipment or electric machines nearby. He says that at first he thought they were windows, but they could see that somehow these were not, that they were part of these machines. They found thick black cables with lighted wires inside. They appeared to be like glass, but were physically malleable without causing damage, even when twisting or bending them. Extruding from the ends of the wires, there were bundles of like exposed glass wires with lighted ends that seemed to have been, severed for some reason. They were blinking, transmitting signals of some kind, but they didn't know what it was, where the power source was. These are the types of things that they found, and they were unfamiliar with all of it. Back to the fighting, again, they had found these Colt revolvers, these Winchester repeater rifles, and this was stuff that was strewn about everywhere, showing that there had been some type of violent altercation there. The deeper they went, they started to realize that they were not alone. There were lower levels to this facility, and they had gone down to like a second level of the facility, and they realized that there was somebody or something in there. Could have been animal, could have been other humans, or could have been these things that they found, these small bodies that they had found. They were not sure. But what ended up happening was that they did position themselves there at the entrance of the cavern and somewhat inside of that upper level to this cavernous facility that they had found. And they started removing everything. The commanding officer had the sense of mind to tell these soldiers to not touch anything until they had experts come in and evaluate everything, and then, remove it with, cautionary, protocol. And as they were moving these things, eventually they started hearing sounds, noises, and I don't want to go too much into detail about that aspect of it, but 2 of these soldiers had actually broken away, disobeyed orders when they were about to leave the facility, and they had an encounter with the inhabitants on a much, much lower level, and all hell broke loose after that, and one of them was captured, and the other one was running back, and I really don't want to go into too much detail about that because that's for the book, and it's a really, really interesting part of this testimony.
I'll tell you what, though, we should discuss the detail to at least give our listeners a full picture of what's going on in terms of the initial exposure, and then, of course, when the book comes out, they can read all the details.
Yeah, so they began to find rooms, more discoveries of equipment, all throughout this facility. And, why don't I go ahead and just, tell you about these sheets that they found. They found these metallic sheets. And this is the interesting part, which I really liked about this testimony because it gave it a real human grounded, base. They found these metallic sheets, thousands of them everywhere. They found like libraries and stuff. These sheets were essentially, stacked up in these type of enclosures within the walls or whatever, and on them, with machine-like precision, were these etchings, and the etchings were so significant to this whole find because what they found on them was an Akkadian-like cuneiform writing system.
What were the sheets made out of?
They had to have been, I don't know, but I do know that they're at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base right now, and the last person to have seen them
How do you know that? Wait a minute. You know that they're at Wright-Patterson? How do you know that?
Because that's what the colonel told me.
Okay, so you know that he told you that.
Yeah, so I have to go off the assumption that, remember, guys, I'm going off the assumption that he's telling the truth, else this wouldn't even be in my book. Now, he's saying that these sheets, all of them, all of the artifacts from Dulce that were found initially in the 40s are now at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in something called the Vault. There's the
right. The word is allegedly.
Allegedly, got it. Okay, so now I'll agree to that. I'll acquiesce to that. Allegedly, all of these artifacts are in some warehouse at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base behind something called the Vault, and the Vault is something that once it's in there, it would take an act of God for it to ever come back out.
It sounds like a Warehouse 13 in reality, as opposed to the Sci-Fi Channel show. All right, let me ask you another question here. Did the Colonel tell you what else is there in the vault, or is it just these items that were recovered in this cave?
All I know is based on what he told me, and it was just these items from the cave, which, I mean, these items alone are of major importance and interest. I mean, to people like me, with a computer background, it's amazing.
We don't think that the Nazis maybe had some advanced technology we didn't know about, and that they employed this stuff. Do you think it's representative of a secret society on Earth, or E.T., or what?
That's interesting that you would bring that up, because the Greys are not the only non-human species on this planet. There's another species which actually started out as like the Greys, they were totally alien, but now because of circumstances, they were forced to create this alien-human hybrid for, to perpetuate their species to continue, or else they wouldn't be able to survive on the planet. And now, this is the apples and oranges part of the story. This is going to drive people nuts.
I'll tell you what already, I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of stuff here that people will find incredible, so I don't think we can make them any more nuts than they might already be. Okay?
Okay.
Good point, Gene.
So let me just go ahead and jump to this section really quickly. So people want to know the history. How did these Greys get in the Dulce Caverns in the first place, right? And you guys want to know that, right? I wanted to know that. So I said, well, where did they even come from? So apparently, 1 million years ago, a progenitor race of aliens came to our solar system.
Wait a minute, a million years ago?
1 million years ago, a progenitor race of aliens came to our solar system from Sirius B to inhabit Mars. On Mars, they thrived and lived successfully until one day, unexpectedly, some catastrophic event occurred. An asteroid destroyed the planet and nearly all of its inhabitants, which were these progenitors. They left Sirius B for whatever reason, I don't know. And he doesn't even mention that. So that was that long ago. Now, when I did my research to that part of the story, one of the possible connections I found was that there's this West African culture called the Dogon, who perform a ritual every 6 years to honor Sirius, and Sirius A and Sirius B. Apparently, they believe extraterrestrials came from Sirius, and that's who they're honoring, and I go into that in the book. But anyway, after the catastrophe, the progenitor race left Mars to Earth to avert a complete extinction. On Earth, although oxygen was plentiful, its environment had very low levels of nitrogen, carbon dioxide, which were what they needed to thrive, and that's why they were at Mars in the first place. So the progenitor race decided to live on Earth, but they were dying.
Okay, let's go into this legend or the story of the progenitor race in a moment. Mm-hmm. Anthony Sanchez joining us on the Paracast this week. The co-host is Chris O'Brien. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in
the Paracast.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. If you own an Apple iPhone and love to listen to your favorite programs on GCN, I've got good news for you. I'm proud to announce that GCN has a brand new iPhone app available for our dedicated listeners at GCNlive.com. Listen to your favorite hard-hitting GCN programs live or on demand right on your iPhone. And the best part? The GCN iPhone app can be yours absolutely free. Download the iPhone app today by clicking on the banner at GCNlive.com. Again, that's GCNlive.com. Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Neighbors, this is becoming wild and woolly here. We are now talking about a progenitor race. Indeed. Anthony Sanchez is our guest. I'm Gene Steinberg. Chris O'Brien's the co-host and the sound effects technician.
Whoa.
I think Nick Redfern does a better deep-voiced laugh. I can do a good shadow laugh, but not here. People think I do bad imitations. Anthony, you know that we're obviously just fooling with you, but obviously this is something that certainly fits in with a lot of UFO-related legends. I think of the case of the Deros and Tiros of Richard Shaver, where the civilization goes
there,
into
Gene. This is right down
their
Ray
alley.
Palmer and Richard Shaver's alley, boy.
But Anthony, okay, are you accepting this possibility because the colonel told you this, or did you do something that would provide independent confirmation? And also, how did he know? Just because he's a colonel and maybe was working at Dulce doesn't mean he knows all this stuff. So how did he come by this information?
Right. Exactly, Anthony. Why don't you, give our listeners a sense of the cuneiform tablets that were found, or the sheets, the metal sheets that had the cuneiform type writing, and the fact that they were able to decipher this information.
Yeah, they actually, once they realized that they were looking at an Akkadian-style cuneiform writing system, it was really easy for them to translate everything. It was much more structured and it had a much more complex alphabetic system, closer to the Ugaritic style of alphabet. But it even had phonetic properties to it that they were able to somehow figure out. And I think that came about later with the help of the inhabitants, the Greys. But what I do know, and this is in the book, is that all of these sheets were essentially cataloged. They were sorted, cataloged, and then put into a system electronically, which is still there, part of the DSD-3 repositories. And that's how the colonel knows about all this. He says he spent years reading this stuff, late at night, learning everything he could about them. And it was through the translations of all of these tablets, these sheets, which, again, allegedly are now at Wright-Patterson Air Force in something called the Vault.
So he was able to bring this stuff home and study it in terms of the translations and the supportive data.
No, not bring it home. Yeah, there at Dulce. He had to study it there at Dulce. Yeah, I asked that too, Chris. And no, you.
Well, you said late at night. Usually people go home from work,
Well,
some of us do anyway.
Yeah, except for you, Gene. You're always at home.
No. No, when you read the book, you'll realize that a lot of these people there live at Dulce. A lot of the people that work in this intelligence command, in DSD-3 and installation command, they actually live there, as do some of the scientific contingent who work there. But they do have a shuttle that takes them right back to the LANL access point if they want to go to their apartment or whatever in Los Alamos or wherever they live. But the history was studied. Something happened on Mars. They came to Earth. When they came to Earth, they were dying. They did die. But before they died, they created these offspring that were genetically enhanced offspring. But those offspring somehow became afflicted with the same sickness. So they created an offspring, again, genetically enhanced offspring. These are these Australbus people that I'm talking about. And that group that preceded them were called the Anu, A-N-U, Anu. And now, I don't know if there's any relation to the Anunnaki of Zechariah Sitchin, but I know that the colonel says that these people were called the Anu, A-N-U. At the same time that the progenitors created their genetically enhanced offspring, the Anu, they created the Aloha. The Aloha were the Greys. They were created to serve the Anu and to also oversee the hominid population of Earth. Remember, all of this happened once they came to Earth. When the Anu, like their predecessors, died off, they knew they were going to die off. They created this Australbus, which was an alien and human hybridization. That goes back to why the colonel wanted to talk to me in the first place, because I touched on that in my blog. Now, the Aloha Greys were in existence at the same time as the Australbus. The Anu had essentially warned the Australbus that at some point in time the Greys could pose a threat if their numbers increase. So the book goes into detail about how the colonel says at some point in time the Australbus infected the Greys with something that made their lives hell, and it made it so that it was impossible for them to continue to thrive on the surface. Therefore, they moved them to the other side of the planet and put them in these subterranean caverns where they could, it would be like a sanctuary where they could work on recovering from whatever was infecting them. And they didn't know that they were infected by these Australbus. And what's interesting about the Australbus is that they essentially became this very, very powerful human lineage which is very reminiscent, if not the Illuminati. I told you it was going to get into this apples and oranges section, and a lot of people are going to go, what? But
sounds like David Icke.
Sounds a lot like David Icke. So the infection caused an inability to withstand the sun's electromagnetic radiation, the Greys.
Okay, this is Richard Shaver all over again. Okay.
Yeah, I don't even know who that is, to be honest with you.
Okay, Richard Shaver. Do you remember the name Ray Palmer?
No.
Okay, Ray Palmer, Richard Shaver. Ray Palmer was the co-founder of Fate magazine. He was editor of Amazing Stories in the 1940s when Richard Shaver came to him and wrote stories of being in contact with underground entities called the Deros and the Tiros. Palmer was also involved with Kenneth Arnold. They wrote a book called The Coming of the Saucers, and that was about the Maury Island affair, okay?
Oh, you know what? When I was in Angel Flower, this woman from Los Angeles approached me and was telling me about the Deros. And that was the first that I had ever heard about it. So, anyhow, the Greys began to suffer, but this is what's interesting. They began to espouse a religious doctrine, which was a reverence for the progenitor race who had created them. Remember, they didn't know that they had been infected by the offspring of the progenitors, but over time somehow they figured it out. That Astra Albus group that I told you about began a strict breeding protocol, eliminating as much of the alien DNA from their lineage as they could to become human in both appearance and anatomy. And through all of that Astra Albus became a tightly controlled bloodline with a small alien genetic footprint. And they became the people who today represent the powers that be amongst the ranks of humanity. The oldest and primary families, including like your Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Astors.
Boy.
So well, I'm just telling you what I'm getting from this kernel. And the human nature of the lineage, you had this primary lineage, and then you had these interconnected families, other lineages. And there's this it's just human nature to sometimes to break protocol and do what you're not supposed to do. And anyhow, these families cross continents, apparently, and human appearance is inconsequential. They're North Americans, Asians, Africans, Europeans, Australians, South Americans. This is a real interesting aspect to the story. And anyway, so the Greys they were essentially sent there to die, and they are still dying, apparently. And that's why they chose...
So how many were left at this point? What are we talking about in terms of numbers?
There were tens of thousands of them just about 12,500 years ago. But after this civil war that they had amongst the Greys, apparently there's this younger cast of Greys called the Dissidents who don't espouse the same doctrine as the older, lower-level Greys. The dissident Greys don't want to worship this deity whose offspring, is infected them.
Okay, so we're talking about various factions of Greys.
Two. There's only two.
Okay, only two fractions of Greys. Anthony Sanchez joining us on the Paracast. The co-host is Chris O'Brien. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in
the Paracast.
Hey neighbors, ever thought about creating a website? With HostGator, you can create your own website with your very own .com domain name. HostGator has a free site builder and thousands of design templates to create your website today. Whether you want to create a blog, a photo gallery, a family page, or a website for your business, HostGator has the right plan for you, starting at less than $5 a month for ultra-reliable website hosting with 99.9% uptime and true 24/7 live support available by phone, chat, or email, and based right here in the U.S. Don't be left without a website. It's more affordable and easier than you think. Sign up at technightowl.com/Gator, that's Gator, to get the lowest possible price. At HostGator, that's technightowl.com/Gator to get a special deal on all their web hosting services.
Good day, Jim Newcomer from Midas Resources. October 8, 2010. Gold opened this morning at $1335.30. A 1-ounce gold coin can be purchased for $1370.17, $685.08 for a half ounce, or $342.54 for a quarter ounce. That's $1370.17, $685.08, and $342.54.
Again, the Congressional Budget Office sounds the alarm, warning of Greek-style U.S. debt crises. CBO is drawing a parallel between U.S. economy and the Greek economic meltdown. Debt to GDP climbing to unfamiliar territory and deficits rising to unsupportable levels. Hi, Ted Anderson. The Federal Debt and Risk of Financial Crises document the CBO has published is a must-read for every American. Covering the risks of deficit spending, aging population, and rising interest rates spells economic disaster. Call today at 800-686-2237. I'll send it free. Again, call 800-686-2237. Ask for the CBO document. Call 800-686-2237.
I'm concerned about food for my family in the event of an emergency, and I know you are too. Are you ready? Don't wait for an emergency to happen. Put a plan together now with quality dehydrated food from Ready Reserve Foods. For nearly 40 years, Ready Reserve Foods has been in continuous operation, canning the finest in dehydrated foods. Other companies just broker canned foods. Ready Reserve is the manufacturer, controlling quality from start to finish with double enameled cans and nitrogen packing for maximum shelf life. Ready Reserve offers a balanced selection of fruits, vegetables, dairy products, proteins, and grains. Choose from a variety of pre-selected units or order by individual can to customize your own plan. When you purchase from Ready Reserve Foods, you are buying factory direct at wholesale prices. Call today for a free catalog, 1-800-453-2202, or visit ReadyReserveFoods.com. Call 1-800-453-2202. Ready Reserve Foods, factory direct, wholesale pricing.
Most people know that drinking pure high alkaline pH water is the most important factor in maintaining high energy and vibrant health. Most experts agree that the water you drink should be at a pH level of 8 or higher. AlkaVision Plasma pH drops combine a unique formula of the most alkaline minerals. Using plasma pH drops is the best way to make your water alkaline to help you get rid of acid and regain your health and energy. Simply put 10 drops in the water you drink to raise the pH to a healthy level. Alkalizing water helps your body rid itself of acidic waste and increases the oxygen content of your body. Disease organisms like bacteria, viruses, and cancer cannot survive in an alkaline high pH environment. Order your bottle of AlkaVision Plasma pH drops now by going directly to alkavision.com. That's ALKAvision.com. Or call 269-409-1776. 269-409-1776 today.
America's #1 source for independent talk radio for over a decade. We are the GCN Radio Network.
We want to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com. Get in on all the action at forum.theparacast.com.
Anthony Sanchez joining us. We're talking about two classes of grays here, and we'll pursue this in a moment. He has a book coming out called UFO Highway that explains what all this is about. Chris O'Brien's the co-host. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in the Paracast. And as we progress here, and we're in the final hour of the show, something occurs to me. This colonel, do you think he's telling you a story?
No, because there's two parts to this whole testimony. There's his part, which is what he did and how he interacted with certain principles throughout this whole, Dulce affair. And then this whole history aspect is just what he learned. And he's only relaying to me what he learned and how it, relates to what we know today. There's connections throughout all of this stuff. I mean, I'm seeing bits and pieces. I've researched UFOs and similar type fields for 20 years now, and I'm seeing connections to things.
But wait a minute, Anthony. If you've researched subterranean claims of subterranean civilizations, and you don't even know about.
I'm sorry, I'd never heard of it.
I'm trying to, I'm suspending my disbelief here as much as possible. But you got to do some digging, guy, and really get up to speed on a lot of this stuff, because the Shaver mysteries, I think, are really crucial in this whole underground alien dwelling civilization scenario. And I don't want to sound like I'm spanking you here, but at the same time, it's really important to do the digging. Pardon the bad pun.
No, and you know what, Chris, and I do. It's just that you have to keep in mind, for 20 years, I have been working on human origins, transformation hypothesis, and studying the HARP and Project Bluebeam conspiracies, but working on connections between HARP and Project Bluebeam. I never was a specialist in underground subterranean facilities.
Well, you're going to have to be real quick there, guy.
Well, I had read some books on, from Richard Souter and some other stuff, but listen, prior to January of this year, this whole underground subterranean facility thing, this is brand new to me. And I've spent the last 9 months, absorbing so much information about, the known underground facilities like, Mount Pony and Manzano, the underground nuclear storage facility, and then the alleged underground facilities like in Sedona, Arizona, and Dulce. Now I believe in the Dulce, that there's something there, Dulce, based on my research. I have done the digging. I have made the phone calls. I have filed the forms, and I have sent the letters, and I have.
You have, and that's why you're on the show. So why don't you continue? Yeah. We're at our situation where we're talking about hybridization of these grays. We have two factions, and we're talking about a timeline that we're 12,500 years ago. Why don't you continue from that point?
Yeah, so there was essentially, this dissident class of Greys who said, hell no, we don't want to worship these progenitors anymore, because they lived by these set of laws that were based on the doctrine, this religious doctrine. And, once they made the discovery and knew that they had been infected by the offspring of these progenitors, why are they going to want to worship these people? So, and anyhow, all that they do is work to survive and try to figure out how to continue living. All these cattle mutilations, all these human mutilations, everything that you hear about that happens within a 1,000-mile radius of the Four Corners region happens because of these grays. Based on all the information that I have here, all of your more modern abductions are taking place because of the military facilitating these exercises through the use of gray technology, but for real world applications like testing the effects of ricin and anthrax on a cow, excising the glandular organs and vital organs and taking them back to their facility, their laboratories for analysis. Same thing is happening with the abduction of humans. And all of this, again, is being facilitated through the use of great technology, and some of it is being done through conventional technology.
Anthony, just for future reference on radio programs, the A word, allegedly, it's really important.
Yes, okay. So, allegedly. So, anyhow, today the Greys number about 1,000. That's it, because, again, they're continually dying, and that's allegedly. And in 1940, we made this discovery, and there's a lot of interesting information in the book. Talks about the two facilities outside of the main facility. I mean, underneath the Archuleta Mesa, there's your technical area. There's your TAD-1 facility, which is the main area off of the eastern slope, extending out towards the county road. I'm going to say 357. Is TAD-2, which is a 2-level underground security auxiliary. And in 1991, there was a third facility completed in Leandro Canyon, which is southwest of the main Dulce area facility near Leandro Tank, and directly beneath the Project Gas Buzzy Ground Zero location. the 1990s is when the leaks began of MyLabs and super soldiers and bioagent development, all began to emerge the same time as the supposed and alleged TAD-3 facility was completed.
You know what? But this is the point here about everything being alleged.
Yeah.
And that is, this colonel could be feeding you disinformation, hoping that you'll come out with this book eventually, or some kind of public description, and make a darn fool of yourself, or a damn fool of yourself. Now, how do you look at this guy? Maybe he is who he says he is, but how do you verify any of this stuff?
Well, I had to physically go to these locations to verify some of this stuff. I went to Dulce. I went off of the eastern slope, up from Lumberton, up to County Road 357, and I went to where he told me to find something, and I saw some mysterious stuff out there. First of all, if you've ever been to Dulce, there's pretty much nothing off of the eastern slope except some homes that are in cabins that are not even inhabited the entire year round. So it's strange to see some of the things that I saw there with my own eyes, strange things that look like transformers sitting in the middle of nowhere. They could be innocuous. They could be innocently there because they provide electricity to these homes. But I just saw some weird stuff that was pointed out to me to look for. My due diligence went there and found stuff that wasn't supposed to be there that was there.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. I've been all through that area on a number of occasions. And in support of what you're saying, I agree. There are a lot of very strange things going on around the Dulce area, and I don't consider myself to be the most sensitive guy in the world, but there's a real creepy feeling around there that it's hard to put into words.
Chris.
So continue.
I'll tell you, Chris, I did not feel comfortable when I was out there.
I'll tell you what, though, we have to break before we continue with the level of discomfort you're going to report here and what happened to you. And I haven't been there, so I can't vouch for anything except to listen to what you have to say and attempt to understand it. We have Anthony Sanchez joining us. Chris O'Brien's the co-host. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in
the Paracast.
Is there a secret UFO agenda? Do strange creatures from the darkest corners of the mind roam the earth? Is there evidence for mind control, time travel, or devious government conspiracies? Find out the inside scoop on the latest conspiracies, paranormal activity, and Fortean phenomena when you subscribe to Tim Beckley's Conspiracy Journal. It's jam-packed with stories, special book and DVD promotions, and the best news, it's absolutely free, sent right to your mailbox. Plus, a bonus free email newsletter sent out every Friday. Simply send an email with your name and address to Mr. UFO at webtv.net. That's Mr. UFO at webtv.net. Find out what they don't want you to know.
To ship a vehicle safely from point A to point B, which company should you choose? Easy. Stateway Auto Transport. Why trust Patriot-owned Stateway Auto Transport? Many reasons. Stateway is not just a broker, but a fully licensed and bonded carrier with its own fleet of trucks and $1 million of cargo coverage insurance. With Stateway, your vehicle rides safely on a direct route on the same truck, and your shipment is always door-to-door with no hidden fees. And every shipment includes free online vehicle tracking. Simply put, Stateway Auto Transport is the best, most efficient, quickest, and friendliest worldwide shipper in the business. To receive a free quote from a live customer service representative, call 877-848-7474 or see us online at statewayauto.com. That's statewayauto.com or call 877-848-7474. Ask about discounts for seniors, military, and all GCN listeners. Stateway Auto Transport, your one-stop shop for worldwide vehicle transport.
If you owe the IRS money you can't pay, then listen carefully, because you already know that the problem won't go away by itself. You can get help today from the leading tax expert in the country, Dan Pilla.
Hi, I'm Dan Pilla. The IRS isn't going to just forget about you. Right now, the IRS is hiring thousands of tax collectors to go after delinquent accounts just like yours. That's why you need to take action today, and I can help. I take a simple but proven approach to solving your tax debt problem. First, I stabilize collections so you don't have to worry about wage and bank levies. Next, I build a detailed plan to get your debt reduced to the fullest extent possible, sometimes even eliminated. Finally, I work with you every step of the way to get your problem solved once and for all. So call now for a free consultation. Call 1-800-346-6829.
Dan Pilla will solve your tax problem, guaranteed. He's helped thousands of people, and he can help you too. Call us today at 800-346-6829. That's 800-34-NO-TAX.
In a coming-apart world, you need something to keep it tied together. That something is Atwood Rope, the highest quality rope made in the USA, from exotic braids for military, rescue, arborists, boating, tow line, shipyard, or decoration. Quality rope at affordable prices you and your customers can depend on. Find a dealer or shop online at atwoodrope.net. Enter promo code RADIO to receive a free 100 feet of 550 paracord. Atwood Rope, working to keep the world tied together.
Go solar for cheap. Want to use solar power but the price is too high? Now you can build your own solar panels for less than $200 at 123cheapsolar.com. Don't laugh. We've sold over 45,000 solar do-it-yourself kits. Watch the step-by-step videos that even non-handyman types can use. We offer a 60-day money-back guarantee. Go to 123cheapsolar.com or call 800-713-0486. 800-713-0486. Reduce your foreign oil dependency when you go green with 123cheapsolar.com.
Tired of searching for great talk radio?
And I think it really does make a difference.
We are the GCN Radio Network.
Genesis. This is Philip Rogno. You're listening to Paracast, one of the most informative shows out there. So listen closely.
We have Anthony Sanchez joining us this week. I'm Gene Steinberg. The co-host is Chris O'Brien. You're in the Paracast for 2 more segments. And now you're in this area, Anthony, and you feel, well, things are strange, a creepy feeling. Do you think you might have been spooked by all the stories about what's going on there?
A little bit. You know, it's natural, you know, human nature to be frightened of what you don't know. Before going up there, before driving out to Lumberton, I was in Dulce, and I was talking with people in Dulce over at the Best Western Hickory, and they had told me that morning there had been helicopters flying over the area, and then there was a caravan of Humvees and 2 white vans. Nobody knows where they came from. They just drove straight through the town towards Lumberton, eastward towards Lumberton. And that kind of freaked me out, you know. So I was constantly, I think partially I was on the lookout for that, and I didn't want to encounter that. So I kind of was a little bit unnerved. I did go out to, as far as I could, into this area, off the main road, off the county road, and I did find some things that just, you know, didn't make sense to me. What appeared to be like small transformers and stuff, but there was nothing there. So they just, I don't know. Anyhow, the one thing that I did want to mention that I thought that the two of you might find interesting is this. When I started doing my research into this alleged TAD-3, which was completed in 1991, this was supposed to have been completed around 1980, according to the Colonel. But because of what had happened there in 79, everything came to a stop. The only thing that managed to be completed, which was part of the original development plans for this third facility, was this water abatement called Leandro Tank. And Leandro Tank is, I mean, literally across the road from Ground Zero of Project Gas Buggy. It is a 30 by 30 water abatement, a little small reservoir for cattle. But there are no cattle there. There are no cattle there.
Well, let me just bring our listeners up to speed about Project Gas Buggy. I think it was in 1966, correct me if I'm wrong, the Department of Energy exploded a small tactical nuke way down into the ground. I guess it was an effort to release natural gas so that it could be exploited by the energy companies. Continue.
Yeah, so anyhow, they found that the gas was heavily irradiated and unusable or whatever. But, yeah, thank you for that background, Chris. Leandro Tank was completed in 1980, and what it's used for, according to the Colonel, is not for the rehydration of cattle, but because it's situated where it is, on top of Ground Zero, it's used for the dumping of toxic chemicals, waste from that scientific facility, that third facility. That's what it's used for.
Right, and they can get away with it legally because it's on sovereign Native American land.
That's right. So, and nobody's doing any checking out there, and so that was one point of interest that I came across. One point of interest with regards to researching the claims made by the colonel with regards to this third facility, and I just thought I would mention that there's this water abatement for cattle, but there are no cattle, and it's on top of a heavily irradiated area. Go figure.
Yeah, with some of the highest incidents of environmental cancers on record in the United States, by the way.
Okay, and you guys, I got to bring this up right now because I know we only have 2 segments left, or 1 segment left after this. The reason why the colonel is giving me this testimony is because of human rights violations and environmental disasters that are occurring there. And he says they're just going to get worse. He was hoping for disclosure. He retired in 1983. He was hoping for disclosure by the year 2000. And like he said to me, it's now 10 years later, nothing. And if we knew what was happening there, there's, God, I wish I remember how he put it. He called it innocent collateral something with regards to innocent people being abducted and being used for these experiments. He says that no one would stand still for what is taking place there. I mean, look at Travis Walton. I mean, look at Myrna Hansen and her 6-year-old son. Those are 2 cases I believe. I don't know much about Krista Tilton, and I know that she claims to have had an experience being abducted there, and possibly taken to Dulce, but it involves an aspect of the reptilian story, which I'm not that familiar with, and I really don't have. I'm going to tell you, I asked the colonel outright because people were going to ask me, were there reptilians there at Dulce? No, there was never any reptilians at Dulce. It is grays. There's the only ones that are part of this story with regards to the history, understanding these progenitors, their 2 offspring, and the cast that they created, the grays, just served their offspring.
Well, where are we now with the whole scenario? I mean, what's going on there today, to your knowledge?
In the 1990s, apparently this malevolent organization took over AFOSI and even DSD-3, and they started these MyLabs programs. They started this biogenetic experimentation openly on potentially innocent people being abducted. I don't know. There's a lot of bad stuff going on, and that's the reason why the colonel wants his story out.
So are we talking about a joint operated facility underneath Archuleta Mesa, as the as the stories go, or why don't you clue us in? How much does the colonel know about what's currently going on there?
A lot, because he is part of this intelligence channel that I was telling you about earlier that has a connection to a group called COM-12. COM-12 fights that malevolent organization that he talks about, which I think has ties to MJ-12, Majestic 12.
Okay, now here we go again. Let me ask you a question. Do you believe in MJ-12?
I personally met with Stanton Friedman, and I believe that some of the documents that resulted from that whole MJ-12 episode were validated to be true.
Yeah, well, you understand, though, that MJ-12 is very controversial, and a lot of very respected UFO researchers do not accept the MJ-12 documents, even if they believe in some of the things that are referred to in those documents, such as Roswell.
Yeah, I tend to believe that MJ-12 is very real, and a lot of the claims made, a lot of the points that came out of the MJ-12 documents are in fact real. So that as a UFO researcher with 20 years of my own amount of work in this business, in this field, I believe in Roswell. I believe in Aztec. I believe in San Antonio. I believe in quite a bit of the things that have occurred within the Southwest. With regards to what I know now.
Okay, so understand also with regard to Aztec. I'll be fair to Frank Warren, and I'll be fair to Scott Ramsey. The book isn't out yet. When we have the book, we're going to interview Scott Ramsey. We're going to interview Kevin Randall, who does not believe in Aztec. Put them together in the same virtual room, and let them have at each other and discuss the ins and outs of that case. Until, of course, the book comes out, all I can say is officially we're kind of skeptical about it. If you accept it, that's fine. I appreciate that, and certainly I'm sure that Scott Ramsey is quite serious. Frank Warren is a person I know personally and respect a lot, and the fact that he believes in it, well, that leads me to want to take it seriously. Now,
the Colonel mentions Aztec.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's important too. I'm inclined to at least give it serious attention. Yeah, but this is why I worry about this guy, which is if he's telling you all this, is he there to basically pull the wool over your eyes? Because we hear about so many of these cases about UFO disinformation. I mean, you're talking yourself about, in your book, you're talking about a device that could be used to, create fake UFO sightings. How do you know? How can you tell? We're talking to Anthony Sanchez. He has a book coming out called UFO Highway. We'll join that UFO Highway for one more session in a moment. A reminder, go to forum.paracast.com, forum.paracast.com if you want to discuss anything about the show, or write to us, news@paracast.com, news@paracast.com. Chris O'Brien's the co-host. I'm Gene Steinberg. For one more session, you're in
the Paracast.
Are you ready to order the official Paracast t-shirt? You asked, we answered. We're now taking orders for the official Paracast t-shirt. It comes in white, 100% cotton. The front of it features the same logo that we have on our community forums. On the back it says, separating signal from noise. To order the official Paracast t-shirt, here's all you have to do. Visit our new online store at store.theparacast.com. One more time, that's store.theparacast.com. You can use a major credit card to place your order for the official Paracast t-shirt. Hey neighbors, we have one more thing to talk about, and that's more merchandise at the official Paracast store. We have hats, we have jackets, we even have a flip video camcorder customized with the Paracast logo at the official Paracast store. It's all now available at the official Paracast store, store.theparacast.com.
What is a wind generator?
How can the wind produce power for a small cabin?
How can wind energy be stored and used during an emergency?
Can I assemble my own wind generator?
For answers to questions about wind power, visit windbluepower.com. Did you know the wind could provide your family with emergency power? It can with a wind generator from windbluepower.com. Learn how our amazing LightBreeze wind generator kits start charging a 12-volt battery and just 6 mile-per-hour wind. Or see the new Cyclone X2 dual kit featuring 2 wind generators on just 1 tower. And learn why schools and universities across the country utilize our products to teach about wind power and alternative energy at windbluepower.com. All kits qualify for a 30% IRS tax credit for residential energy efficient property. Enter coupon code RADIO for a 5% discount at windbluepower.com. That's windbluepower.com, or call 800-976-0026. That's 800-976-0026.
All types of batteries for all types of gadgets. We'll say it again. All types of batteries for all types of gadgets. Electronics, toys, flashlights, computers, accessories, and more are at BatteryStation.com. Whatever type battery you need, alkaline, lithium, gel cell, NiCad, metal hydride, sealed lead acid, and more are at BatteryStation.com. Our homepage gives you quick access to ham, marine, police, fire, and aviation batteries. Plus, choose from our great selection of LED flashlights with no bulb to ever burn out and much longer battery life. Find many top brands including Streamlight, Pelican, Surefire, Novitec, Gerber, and more at BatteryStation.com. You'll also find the most popular brands of ammunition and watertight cases for storing guns, food, electronics, survival gear, and more at BatteryStation.com. Call 417-257-7799. That's 417-257-7799. You will be surprised when you visit BatteryStation.com.
Attention gun owners. You're into guns and many people you know are into guns. Well, someone needs to maintain, clean, and repair those guns, and it could be you. Now get a free How-To Gunsmith DVD sampler from AGI, the American Gunsmithing Institute. Learn the art of professional gunsmithing as a part or full-time career. Develop a lucrative business by learning the art of gunsmithing through over 71 exclusive DVD training courses. Get started today by ordering our free DVD sampler video and catalog at AmericanGunsmithDVD.com. See how to quickly learn firearm disassembly, reassembly, accurizing, customizing, super tuning, refinishing, trigger repair, and much more for rifles, pistols, and shotguns. To order your free DVD sampler and catalog, call 800-367-9792 or go to AmericanGunsmithDVD.com. Ask about a bonus $10 savings coupon when you call 800-367-9792 or go to AmericanGunsmithDVD.com. Learn how. Learn now with AmericanGunsmithDVD.com.
Bringing you the best in alternative talk radio for over 10 years. GCN. Great talk radio starts here.
This is the Paracast. You never know what's going to happen next.
Chris O'Brien's the co-host. Anthony Sanchez is the guest. Gene Steinberg is someone I haven't figured out what. You're in the Paracast. And we're trying to make...
reptilian dinosaur, right there, Gene?
Well, maybe I'm one of those grays, but I'm too tall to be a gray. Okay, at 6'1.5", you can't be a gray. I used to be 6'2", but you shrink.
You're a burro, not a Turo or a Duro. You're a burro.
I haven't figured out what I am. Some people say things about what I am, but those things cannot be used on commercial radio.
Ooh.
Yes, George Carlin could tell you what those words are. That's as far as we... Okay, Anthony, we have one section left. So we know that you're putting together this material in the book about Dulce. And obviously you take the colonel seriously. You don't think he's pulling the wool over your eyes or engaging in disinformation, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, listen, the colonel's documentation notwithstanding, as a responsible research, it still was not enough for me to rely upon his info as the be-all, end-all of the matter. In addition to the data that I had received from him as part of my investigation, I needed to take it further. I wanted to see if there was any compelling evidence, quotes, potential links to the reality that something was in fact there. And not just any pieces of data, but from just any one or any source, but data that has substance to it.
And that's important. And Anthony, really, I tip my hat to your dogged, determination and the extent of the research that you've done. It's really highly commendable.
Thank you. So, again, something that had substance to it, which could facilitate direction towards further proof. Was there anyone outside the immediate Dulce periphery who was giving us UFO researchers valid clues about the existence of an underground base or Con 12 or Grays? Fortunately, for me, I was able to discover this guy named Norio Hayakawa back in March. I knew who Norio was, since 1989. I never talked to him, but I would make a myriad of connections from areas that I would have never even imagined to finalize this picture of the reality that Dulce represents. Once I got a guy involved who had a skeptical perspective about what was potentially there. He doesn't believe in reptilians. He doesn't believe in certain things, and he does, he believes that, if Norio, he has very, very strong, beliefs on what the military is doing, how they're involved with UFOs, disinformation, that they're feeding to us, and who's being fed this disinformation and whatnot. So when I began looking into possible external sources, I found what amounted to an interesting bit of info that came from several people. And, one of them was this former military intelligence operative and an author of several books, provocative books, much like Colonel X, and the guy goes by the name Commander X, and the two of you probably know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So Commander X, for me, remains somewhat of a mystery because he's more of an unconfirmed witness as opposed to a whistleblower.
Wait a minute, Commander who?
Commander X. a former military intelligence officer. You can find him at Amazon.com.
Right, but we all know that's a fake. I know that's a fake, okay? I know who Commander X is. Let's just drop that.
Okay, fine. I'm thank you for telling me that because, his book was Entrances to Subterranean Tunnels, Underground Alien Bases, and he mentions,
Let me confess something here. Now, we know who published those books. No, I'm not Commander X. I know who Commander X is because I will tell you this, that during the early 1990s, I did a lot of the typography and production work for Timothy Beckley. And the books he published, Global Communications, all that kind of stuff, Interplanetary News Service, and I knew all about Commander X. Let's just leave it there. And you know what? Call it a house name. Call it a house name for his publishing company. That's it.
I was just synthesizing data. I don't know who this Commander X is, but he said something about Dulce. I just captured it, wrote it down, bunched it in with everybody else's data, and made heads or tails of it. That's all I did.
Okay, but understand, though, the reason I'm being skeptical about this is because I want us to realize that, if you want to have your specific story or evidence considered valid, you have to vet stuff like this. So you see something from a Commander X, don't assume it's real because, people just write books for various reasons, not necessarily because they have valid information. Sometimes it's just a rehash, A lot of times you see those names and all they're doing is rehashing stuff. Listen, we only have a few minutes left, so let me ask you. The book, UFO Highway, give me like a 2 or 3 minute summary and tell us when it's coming out.
It should be coming out by the end of December. Again, the book is essentially about this experience of this colonel who was part of this classified medical detachment to respond to these Type X events. And one of them involved this interesting place called Dulce, New